Hello, everyone out there in podcast land. This is Severen Henderson coming to you again with a episode of Department 3C Presents, a podcast. I still don't have a good name, but that's going to be the name that I'm going to ride with for now. Today, I have one of my best buddies, Ken Johnson, with me. Me and Ken was in the academy. We were in the fire academy together, and I might have another possible guest pop in on us. We'll see how that person feels. But today's topic is going to be how to not let this job of being in the fire service consume you. One of the things about Ken that I've always admired for as long as I've known him, he's always had other passions and other interests involved in the job. I remember, like I said, we was in the academy. It was cool as Kenny. Kenny had clothes. Kenny had gear. Kenny just said cool stuff all the time. Kenny just was cool as hell. And like I said, that's always something I've admired about him. So without further ado, Ken, introduce yourself, please.
That's a mad fly introduction right there. I can't top that. But Ken Johnson, firefighter EMT at the greatest spot in the world to me, Engine 44. As Sav said, we was in the class together, man, and I kind of never wanted to be there, so it was fairly easy for me to be myself. You know what I'm saying?
You never wanted to be in the class, or you never wanted to be at 44? No,
I never wanted to be in the class.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So talk about that. Explain that to us.
So I got on with the fire service because of my father.
Okay.
He was pushing it between, I say, the ages of 11 and like now. I've been wanting to make money. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like you talked about, in terms of being fly, we kind of that hip hop era.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So, you wanted to be Rakim, you wanted to be Kane, you wanted to be Jay, you wanted to be big. Like, those were all the dudes that I was looking at, like, yo, I want to be that. And my uncle was that. My dad was that. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I was the little toddler dressed like his father in the Jordans when they dropped, with the whole Nike sweatsuit to match, and, all of that nonsense. So, when it came down to it, I was like 11, and I was like, man, I want to be like that. I want to make money. I want to, take care of my family. I want to take care of my girl. I want to take her downtown whenever I want to get her whatever she want, that type of stuff. So, fast forwarding to the fire department, by that time I was doing the music real heavy.
Okay.
Had some friends that was involved in some other things, and, everybody was just making money. And at a point, it became where I was liquid, but I was exhausting a lot of money too. I wasn't even stressing about it though, because I'm a person, like, I know if my money's going somewhere it's gonna benefit me, I know the investment is gonna pay off. Okay. You know what I'm saying? So I had an early idea of what investing meant. So when it came to the fire service opportunity, Pops wanted me to take the test. I was vehemently like, no, I'm out. I'm good. I'm sorry.
Nothing to do with that.
Yeah, I don't want nothing to do with that. That's your thing.
Yeah.
And some of that comes down to not wanting to be under his umbrella in terms of just him as a personality.
Want to make your own lane.
Exactly. Like, that's a big deal with it too. So, I just didn't want to do it. And I had the music thing going on. And the only reason it made sense was at the time I got with Brittany, who you know.
Yeah.
And she had a daughter. And I kind of, had already had it in my mind, like, I'm going to start this family. I need insurance. I can't hustle the same way I was hustling.
Yeah.
And I was like, dang, all right, I'll do this thing. And then he talked me into it, talking about, you get all this time off, but that's really a facade. You don't.
You don't feel like that?
I don't, though.
Okay.
I really don't. I mean, it's 88 days a year, but, coming from some of our areas and depending on, how, the ALS and BLS thing is lined up, you need that day or two.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Coming
Absolutely.
From work, depending on how you're feeling, you need that day or two. So, it isn't a ton of time off. It really isn't. Like, I get off work sometimes, like today, I was asleep for a while. You know what I'm saying? I ran my errands before I went home, because you know how it is. Once you get home, you sit on that couch.
Yeah, it's
donezo.
over.
You know what I'm saying? So I got everything done before I could get home. And by the time I got home, I was on fumes and faith. You know what I'm saying? So,
Okay.
yeah.
I definitely understand what you're saying as far as, because I was on truck 29 and not anymore because I'm not on there anymore, but they fight back and forth with every other company in the city for busiest truck. And busy don't mean fun. Like a lot of times people say, oh yeah, you're busy. But sometimes, like you said, you get 2 days off, but that one day is really used to get you back on track. So with that being said, I have, like I said, a background guest that I wanted to bring in here, from Chicago's bravest, Vince Zittnan, and he's a single role paramedic on our job. And Ken and him, they were at the same house together. Vince has since moved on to, I don't want to say bigger and better things.
Definitely not bigger and better.
He's just moved on, and
just a little farther south.
The schedule that we have as firemen, we work 1 day on, 2 days off. The medics work 1 day on, 3 days off. I remember when I was still a functioning paramedic with the city, I used to get detailed to the ambulance every now and then. And I had the opportunity to work with another gentleman that was originally from Cleveland, Tom. How you pronounce it? Kalicki. He just passed away.
Oh, Tom Kalicki.
Kalicki. Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure I pronounced his name.
He's an
right.
interesting guy.
Yeah, he was a great
he was
guy.
You can say he was a character.
He was. I worked with him, and we were on Ambo 23 the day I worked with him, and he was just a joy to work with. I had heard about him before, just being from Cleveland and living in Chicago. I worked with him, and we had an excellent day. He told me stuff about Cleveland I didn't even know. He went to Central Catholic. That was a very big high school at the time, in the Cleveland area. He was telling me about his wife. His wife had just passed, and he told me about some of the things he wanted to do when he retired, and it was just a great day. But in the midst of that, I said, I don't think medics in Chicago should work 24 hours. I said, because after you get to a certain time, it's like, do I even still got it anymore? Am I even still able to make the right judgment? He's like, no, I want my 3 days off. So,
well, it's to some, and mostly the people with some time on the job, that's an unpopular opinion to take that day away, because you guys work 1 day on, 2 days off, but you collect daily days, and your furloughs are set up different.
Right.
When it's all said and done, we roughly work the same amount of days. Mm-hmm. It's just how it's structured. And collectively, what I've heard from the paramedics on the street is most of them would rather grind out that 24 hours and keep that extra day.
Keep those 3 days off.
But you know, it's going to be an unpopular opinion. And during COVID, I got assigned to a COVID rig, and they were 12-hour details. But it was, if you were it was a schedule like if you were in the bureau. You'd work 3 days on, 2 days off, and then you'd come back for a day, and then you'd have three. It was a 40-hour schedule. I tell you what, that schedule wasn't bad, and I could see how we could make that work. If you go by just things like sleep studies and stuff that they've been doing as of recently, and we've had a couple on our podcast discussing the detriment of being sleep deprived in the fire service, it's worse than being drunk.
Okay.
Like everything.
I can believe that. Yeah.
Biologically, that you're deficient in while you're sleep deprived is actually worse than driving drunk, and especially with your decision making. And at times, you guys have both been on these runs at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, where you had to make like real decisions in like a split second on a bad run.
Right.
And I just don't think that after, let's say we're talking about mid-August in our neighborhood,
mm-hmm.
you're going to be on your 25th, 30th run by 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
Right. And how high functioning are you
at that point?
At that point,
you have to think of, you have to give everybody the same standard and the same level of care. You have to treat,
theoretically, right? That's what they want.
That's what they want.
I was gonna say, in Vince's intro, you didn't say it, but this dude right here, we talk about Vince still to this day, every day.
Yeah.
No lie. Can we cuss
Go
on
ahead.
here?
Yes, we have to eat.
No bullshit. Like we talk about Vince and that kind of gamut of crew, that was a nice little period for our house, but this dude gave the same care all day.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
That was a nice
amazing.
crew. That was a nice crew for the West Side period, because he would even come by us. We would be so happy to see him.
Yeah. It's like because we had that mass shooting over there on Albany that time, and he was so calming. And it was a certain chief that came in and lit the whole place up. And it was like, yo, you got to calm down. But Vince was like, chill. And it made us chill because he took control of the scene and everything was just ran perfectly, So, like, it doesn't matter if it was 3 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Same guy. Yes. You know what I mean? So that's just professional. You know what I'm saying? At its highest right there.
And he don't want to talk about theoretically, but he know what it is. He know what it is.
You know
Well,
what it is.
Thank you, Kenny. I really appreciate it. And that means a lot to me coming from a guy from my house. That was my first, real assignment that I put in that I wanted to get. So that means a lot to me. But I think everybody has a bad day. Mm-hmm. And you never know, when that bad day or that bad run is going to come. And, and even, with what's going on in society today, whether we're police officers, firefighters, paramedics, we're all human beings.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. And, we are held to a higher standard by the community.
In this job.
This job especially, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes under these conditions, you don't always seem human.
Right. Because when the lights come out, the cameras come out. That's the thing. Like, every time the lights, literally, those flashing lights come on, cameras come on, and you never know who's looking at you, who's watching you. And not to say we act different when cameras come on, but you want to be, if you're a good first responder, you want to act professional
at all times.
Yeah, I mean, even when you off duty, you want to still be.
Well, that's in our general orders.
Right? Absolutely,
it
absolutely is right.
Yeah.
So you want to act like a good person all the time. Not that the job should make you do that, life should make you do that, but some people don't really think like that. So
well, here's the thing too. When you talk about us being on camera and stuff like that, think about, we just had that 13-year-old shot in Little Village.
Yep.
That police officer who did the shooting, his whole day, it boils down to that split microsecond of his day.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about what he saw all day, what he saw just leading up to that,
how his morning started.
Yeah.
Was his
and
eggs
nobody
overdone?
and nobody cares, right?
Right.
He's supposed to be held to that standard at that eighth of a second.
Right.
People need to realize that you got to expand that window. Yeah, we're seeing what he's seeing at that instance, but not only did we not get to see what he's been seeing the rest of the day, but what he's been seeing as a police officer throughout his whole career.
Right, day in, day out.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty much what the whole topic of conversation with this podcast is. Like Ken, one day we were texting because Ken coaches my son in basketball, and he's a coach overall for different programs, but we was just having a regular conversation, and he was like, man, you really love this. Because I was telling him, said, yeah, I'm going to volunteer at the brigade. I got this other new job teaching, and I'm just doing he said, you really into this? I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, well, let's chop it up. Because like I said, like I introduced or brought the podcast on, Ken has always had something else to do. And I've always been envious of that, because the thing that I know most is first response and fire. So besides not really wanting to come here, but you're here, now you're hanging out. And not only are you hanging out, you're doing an outstanding job at the job. So tell me a little bit about more of your interests and the things that you get done outside of work.
Music, as I talked about already, I had the studio when we first came on. I'm still big into music, DJing. Just DJ'd my first COVID gig over the weekend.
How'd that go?
It was cool, everybody masked up, everybody was dancing, and The food was fire.
That's what I was gonna say. What does all this that entail? A COVID DJ gig?
For me, it meant staying the fuck away from everybody. But because that was a big thing with me, was like, man, I wanted to keep the doors open for cross ventilation, you know, which they needed anyway. They was in there smoking weed, so they needed to anyways. But I mean, he didn't invite as many people as I would expect it. Like his other parties, he rent out a whole bar, and that might be filled. It'd be my next door neighbor, so it'd be filled. You know what I'm saying? Everybody shoulder to shoulder, can barely move, and everybody trying to get to him to greet him. You know what I'm saying? So this one, it was kind of really just family, friends that I know, you know, that I see come by the house. That, you know, whenever they do a barbecue, same people I see all the time. So it was light. You know, that's basically what you kind of keep it to the COVID party. You don't want no extras,
right?
Coming in. But music, basketball, as you just talked about, I love coaching.
Yeah.
In regard to like just passions outside of work, one reason I said that I know you love this shit is because you'll do it for free. You know what I'm saying? When you get to the point of volunteer, like, can't nobody pull me out, but nothing with the fire unless it got to do with a check. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, straight up, I'll be like, yo, what?
Where the check
at? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Straight up, like, I'm not coming out for no parties, no nothing. You know, I gotta for real love you to come out. You know what I'm saying?
Well, thank you, because you just told me you love me to come out for this podcast.
Because you know that
I ain't got no money to pay you. That's why I'm trying to get sponsors.
You know that it's all up. But yeah, you know, so definitely basketball. I love coaching. That's the way I mentor. So that's my real passion in coaching, is actually mentoring. I was just telling the guys on the engine yesterday, like, you know, I appreciate them for, you know, the trades. I appreciate them for, you know, doing other things for me in order to make the coaching work, you know. But it ain't about basketball. Like, you know, they ask me 1,000,001 basketball questions. As, you know, it's natural. And, you know, I know the answers, but it's really about mentoring, you know what I'm saying? And about those kids seeing me, and about, you know, like, you know, personality-wise, I know people are attracted to it. So it's like, I want those kids to get attracted to me, so that way they see, hey, you don't have to do all of this stuff that you're doing, and I know you're doing it, and I know what you can do to get out of it, and here's the road you can take. You know, you got to show them. You know, I was explaining that to them, like, show these kids something different, because they was asking me why I live in South Shore when you could live in Beverly. You could live, I could live in all those places, but then who's going to see me? Some affluent black kid with a doctor and a lawyer as their parents. You know what I'm saying? They already got that vision. Yeah, they already got the Huxtables. They don't need to see Ken. Yeah. You know, I need these kids in East Garfield and Garfield Park, Humble Park, all of those places to see me. You know, so
Kenny, have you been at 44 your whole career?
Whole career.
Yeah.
Going on.
And who were your mentors coming up?
From 44?
Yeah.
Al Ortiz, Matt McDermott, Joe McDonough, Bill Rotunde, who's still there. He's leaving soon.
You had some, like, really awesome guys to bring you up.
Augustinelli.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, that whole crew, I just seen Angel.
Do you take some of the, like, ways that they brought you up? Do you use the same kind of techniques with the kids?
With my basketball kids?
Yeah.
No, not at all. None of that had to do with how I coach basketball. Yeah. All of that stuff just came from my personal experiences. I use that for the candidates that I have coming up. You know, I had Cairo. So Cairo taught me a lot about just teaching firemen. You know what I'm saying? And we were both coaches, so we was always like
he coached a lot of stuff.
He coached baseball,
and wrestling.
Mostly girls softball, but you know, we just bounced stuff off of each other as coaches. We worked well, and, you know, kind of with Lane and Kevin, and well, we didn't do Adrian, but Lane and Kevin, because we were coaches, so we loved that shit. You know, we love drilling, we love teaching. But when it came down to the guys that brought me up, they really shined a light on some of the wrongs that were done to me, because I didn't know. Even though my father's in the fire service, I had no clue about what the culture of the fire department was supposed to be, or, you know, what was wrong or right in terms of, you know, who got the pipe, or who goes to the roof.
That's all stuff that you can't learn in the academy.
You don't learn that in the academy. So I had no clue. So it took, like, mostly Al Ortiz, you know what I'm saying, to really find out things when he wasn't there, and for him to be like, fuck that bullshit, and be, you know, like, yo, this is not supposed to happen to you. And I'd be like, oh, word?
I didn't
shit,
know.
hell if I
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
You know, but him stepping up and talking to me, or, you know, Augustinelli or Angel Vasquez stepping up and talking to me and saying, hey, this is wrong. You know what I mean? Don't let them do this. Don't let them do that. So, yeah, that's who mentored me when I was coming up, and I appreciate them dudes to this day, you know.
Now, Vince, as far as outside endeavors and everything,
I have a few.
Exactly. We're sitting here podcasting in your spot. You like to roll, do jiu-jitsu. You also have another gym, working on other things all the time. And before we even started, the reason I like surprised had you come on is because just a conversation we had in our like pre-show meeting, just how you don't at the beginning you want this job to define you.
Right. I was asking you, who you got coming on now. He told me I was pumped that you were coming in.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen you forever.
Yeah.
And I was telling, like, just ironically, and this is how the world works. I was having like the thoughts, and it never even dawned on me until I was at home doing nothing. I just got back from probably here and walked in my house. It was quiet, and I was thinking about. I think because my uniform was still laying on the chair right when I walk in the door, and I was thinking, I was kind of like reflecting back on when I first got on, how being in the Chicago Fire Department, how that defined me. And that's all I wanted. And I wanted to be part of the Chicago Fire Department. Now, here I am. This is Vince Zittnan, Chicago Fire Department. Mm-hmm. But then as the years go on, you start to, it's not like I had become dispassionate with the job, but now I like really felt the need to do more. You get to that point where I don't want the fire department to define me now. Mm-hmm. I want to do other things. And it was easier for me to step into that mentality that I didn't want being a member of the Chicago Fire Department to define me, because I was raising a son who was young at the time, and I'm like, well, being a father, I can definitely let that define me. Right. If being a good dad defines me, I'm cool with that.
Fine with that.
Yeah. I am good with that. Yeah. Then I started getting into other things, and my time down at the academy kind of turned me on to the fitness part of it. I had always been somebody who, some point in my life, I was always in a gym, something like that. But then I started putting the pieces together that, we could really start helping other people. I was down at the academy, and it was a different time when I was down there. If you didn't pass certain things, they let you go.
Right.
If you didn't pass the lifting and moving, you were fired.
Gotta go.
If you didn't pass the physical fitness test, you were gone.
They should have fired like a quarter of our class. 7.
No comment. And you know what? Real quick before you finish, and I'm gonna let you finish. But when I was telling the story about time, I'm nobody. The stuff I have in my mind are just suggestions, and so at the end of the day, that's all they are. But go ahead, man.
Well, you talk about outside endeavors. I thought that when I left the academy, I was like, what if there's no place for somebody to go that they can train to go to the academy? Maybe they're not fit enough or need a little bit of help, so that their academy, especially back then when it was, make it or break it.
Right.
There was no in between.
Right.
If you had a place that you could go to train, to get a little more fit and really like fine tune what it was that you needed to do physically to get through the academy. So we kind of developed that, and it is, and I don't shit on CrossFit. I come from a CrossFit background. What we do is very different, but to describe it to somebody who from the outside, it's like CrossFit meets the fire service.
And I love that. I was a CrossFit member, and I still appreciate and like CrossFit, but sometimes it's a little rough on your body for some of the stuff we do.
And at our
joints wise,
in our gym, people are training to go to their career, so I have to keep them safe.
Right.
Getting hurt in my gym is not an option for somebody, because God forbid something that they do in our gym prevents them from moving on to their career. We've just did the exact opposite of why we started.
Started it. Yeah. CrossFit was it helped me a ton. I really appreciated. The gym that I used to go to, COVID kind of hurt them and shut them down. And if they ever open back up, that was Bridgeport CrossFit, I would go back with no problem.
Yeah,
So.
and you know, the philosophies at our gym roughly are the same as CrossFit, with some major changes in just safety protocols. That's it. Some high risk lifts will never even
we'll never
people.
do.
Yeah.
What some of the things you do on there, we'll never do. And at the end of the day, you got to be safe. We have a career we're trying to live out, and not just for us, for the public. I mean, at the end of the day, we're called public safety servants. So we're here to serve the public, and we can't help nobody if you can't help yourself. And if you're hurt and you can't do anything, what you gonna do?
While CrossFit has helped a lot of people, I think the selling point on CrossFit is the general community. You know what I'm saying? That's really what their marketing selling point is. It's around the community. But when it comes down to events, I remember you built some contraption at the firehouse.
Yeah,
I
did.
I remember that. But it made me, even then, this is what I thought about with you. And I remember me and Cairo talking about this just in terms of coaching. You know, when we train people for, you know, drilling and whatnot, for being on a pipe, what we talk a lot about is, you know, training for the game. So actually training for what you're going to do every single day. And I'm not taking a dump on my godfather, Cornell Walker. I love you. You know what I'm saying? You worked out a lot of people in the fire department. You helped a lot of people in the fire department. There's a lot of people that love you to death. But what I will say is that I know he didn't build. I know what's in his basement. He didn't build things that actually that people were actually going to do on the fire department. You know what I'm saying? So like, while those workouts were great, you know, as athletes, what I know is that you train for certain things, you know. So like, I tell people, whenever they have 44, it's always some big 6'3" dude that want to come on the court and want to play me and back me up. And I always have to explain, I'm basketball strong. So while, you might be able to throw a lot of iron around in that gym, I'm about to dog you down here, and I'm going to post you up, and I'm going to move you around, and you're going to be guessing why. It's because I'm stronger than you in this game. You know what I'm saying? So you have to train for the game that you're playing. And one thing I noticed with you is you definitely got your people ready for the game, because I watched you build, you know, a contraption to help them. I don't even remember what it was, but
we had to, because that equipment didn't exist.
Yeah.
We had to make it ourselves.
So what was it?
One thing we built at the firehouse is a hitting contraption, so somebody could swing a hammer. I had Danny Bauman, the famous lieutenant of Truck 36. Now, Danny is one of these guys that can do anything. So we went to, there was this place that did iron work over on Grand Avenue, and we would pass it all the time. I went in there, and they had scrap I-beams.
Okay.
Take whatever you want. Big bin full of scrap I-beams. So I grabbed a couple. We put them in the ambulance, praying we didn't get a run, because we had the ambulance filled with these I-beams.
Because how are we going to talk this one out?
Right.
I know you have a chest pain, but
I'm like, you know, Danny, like, if we have a shooting right now, it's going to take us 10 minutes to get these iron blocks
I'm about
out
to say,
here.
just push them out on the street.
Like, we'll both be laid up trying to move these things. So we're like, we got to make it from here back to the firehouse without getting a run.
Right.
And I had Danny weld these things together so they were hitting blocks, so they could pass the CPAT test. Mm-hmm. So we set up these blocks at the exact same height and the exact same dimensions that you would strike in during the CPAT test. Because as we started training people for the CPAT test, we were noting that the deficiencies really are in the stairs and the hammer. And it wasn't until we started training people that we realized that the hammer was one of the big ones. And that just came from more knowledge, because there wasn't a CPAT training center before our gym came along. Mm-hmm. So it was a lot of trial and error at first. Once we built that, then we started seeing it. You know, unless you had a background in construction or and baseball, we have the girls who really know how to like play softball and stuff. They come and they swing the hammer like naturals.
Yeah.
But if you have no background in either, you come to that station, and people come to my gym after they've already failed a couple times. Things I ask them: did you get off the stairs, and how many swings of the hammer? So for you or Kenny or me, it's maybe 8 to 10 swings of that hammer should set that indicator off. Okay. We have good technique.
We know what we're doing.
The CPAT test is designed for guys. You know.
Yes, it is.
It's just what it is.
Yep.
And that's why I have a lot of females in our gym
because they got to get the technique.
And they're not naturally born with natural upper body strength that you would need that testing requires.
Well, even now, guys, unless, like you said, you're in construction or you're playing softball all the time, what are you really swinging?
Yeah, well, you may know how to swing, but you're not swinging efficiently, and you're not swinging with a 50-pound vest on.
Exactly.
So that changes things a little bit for a lot of people.
I feel like it changes drastically, not a little bit, a lot of it.
So you take into consideration that you've already gotten halfway through this CPAT test, you get to this swinging station, and you have the vest on, helmet, gloves, and now you're exhausted, and now you're picking up a 10-pound hammer, and you're trying to set off a block that is going to go off with roughly 1,200 pounds per square inch that you have to accumulate on this block.
Right.
So, we'll have people like ride the assault bike. You guys are familiar with the assault bike?
You get on there.
Like
yeah,
an air bike.
I saw that.
That is the most humbling piece of equipment in our gym, that air bike.
That's in the CrossFit gym. They tell you the same thing.
It'll show you. You think you're fit? Come in here, prove it on this air bike.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's even worse than the rower. It's horrible.
Yeah, we just had that conversation at lunch today after the gym. Like all the girls were talking about, which do you hate more, the rower or the bike? And it was by far the bike.
The bike, yes.
Yeah.
So those are all great points, and I really appreciate you bringing up the fact that you have this gym. We have this resource here in Chicago to help people pass the test and everything, and hopefully you reach out to us and take advantage of all of those. But Ken, back to you, and you were talking about this 6'3" dude trying to get you. You have like the widest base. Me and you are the same height, and I got a pretty wide base too, and I know how to use my body. Dennis Rodman-esque, just from knowing how to grab rebounds, where the ball come off and everything. But you have this wide base, and I have seen you post up dudes, and I'm like, get out of here. I remember you told me your favorite player was Nick Van Exel.
Nick Van Exel, baby.
And Nick Van Exel used to come through, cuff that ball, and lay up with the left hand.
That was my guy.
Yeah, he was cold.
Yeah.
And just... And you've also invited me to hang out with your kids when you had the coaching, when you were coaching at the school and everything.
Yeah.
And just seeing your passion for helping these kids is just something to see, something people not need to see to believe, but it's just very profound in how you help these kids from small to large to go on in life. And you say it's about coaching for you. To me, it's more about coaching. It's about life skills.
Yeah. It's more about mentoring for me.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So the not last thing, but the other thing I want to say and touch on is kind of the mental health aspect. So, we're firemen, we're paramedics. We see the worst stuff all the time. Busy companies. You're at a busy company, Vince. You're busier than both of us probably put together at this point. And we get to see things that people shouldn't see on a regular basis. What do you, Kenny, I'll start with you. What do you think you do to decompress now? Because that's another thing that we talked about. You said, gee, I was in a bad spot.
For sure.
And I admit I was in a bad spot myself, just seeing a lot of brown people just laying on the ground and the family coming up, do something, and I can't.
Yeah.
So what do you do with all of that?
The first thing is communicate, like get those emotions out. You know what I mean? So it took therapy for me to actually start to open up. You get
professional help, Ken?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. My guy Kevin, I know you know Kevin McManus. It actually
I just saw him yesterday.
Yeah, conversation he had with me. He's the first person. Everybody probably noticed, but he's the first person that like walked up to me and said, I'm noticing a change in you. You know what I'm saying? And for me, that's big, because one thing I try to do is be a ghost in the firehouse. You know what I mean? I stay in the EMS room. I do what I'm supposed to do. I don't get involved in none of the catty stuff that happens in the firehouse. And if something goes on, for the most part, I'll take you in the room and close the door. You know what I'm saying? And we don't have a man-to-man conversation. Leave it at that. But, you know, he told me, like, man, I noticed you've been sleeping. You know what I'm saying? I think you've been drinking. You know what I'm saying? Like, you good? And, you know, from that point on, I was like, you know, it's time to get some help. You know what I'm saying? But it was everything you talked about.
Mm-hmm.
It was seeing, you know, nothing but, you know, black and brown people all the time, just fucked up. You know what I mean? Every day.
And I don't want to diminish and say, like, other people don't care.
Oh, no.
But when you see people that look like you all the time.
Yeah, and for me personally, you know, that's the whole point of the mentoring. That's the whole point of, you know, everything I do and volunteering in my community. That's the whole reason I moved to South Shore, was so that, you know, I can be a pillar with my own, you know what I'm saying, and get us right and get to a point where, you know, I'm you know, affecting kids to want to do that as well, because that was given to me. You know what I'm saying? So when it seems like it just got to a point, it just seemed like it was a hill that I was going to be climbing forever and was never going to get to the top. You know what I mean? And it was beating me up pretty bad. And what I did was, after that, I think at the time I just started talking to the girl I was dating, and she was just like, you know, call the back of your insurance card, dude. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I did. I you know, called the Blue Cross, and, you know what I mean, got help, sought therapy, and then I just started talking to her more. You know what I'm saying? And anytime I was talking to, like, older guys will tell you, you know, that they messed up. You know, I remember at the first Christmas party I went to, they told Brittany, you know, like, he's going to be on pain pills by his 10th year. You know what I'm saying?
They said that about you?
Yeah. They was saying that my first year on the job, my first Christmas party, he going to be on pain pills by his 10th year.
Just because that was the consensus with everybody else.
That's what everybody else was doing.
Okay.
And then, you know, you're going to need to know how to talk to this dude, because he's not going to want to talk about the job. And I'm sitting there like, you ain't got to worry about that. I'll talk to you. Thank you. I'll talk to you. I was like, you ain't got to worry about none of that stuff. And I'm like, I'm definitely not going on no pain pills. You know what I mean? But, you know, the physical pain is there. Sometimes you get a little knickknacks. As long as you stay active, I feel like, you know, if you're an athlete, you always going to have some knickknacks. Yes. But when it comes to, you know,
when you posting up 6'5",
you
dudes,
know what I'm
and you
saying?
5'9", 5'10",
you know,
I mean,
I love that shit. But and then, you know, when it came down to the mental health portion, I never thought it would have been me, but it was. You know what I'm saying?
You just wind up there.
You just wind up there, and it's slow, you know, because I think I tricked myself to believe that if I just throw it away, like, you know, whenever I saw like a messed up scene, I would just be like, you know, just throw that away, move on to the next. You got to be professional. You got to move on to the next. Never talking about it. When I went home, never talked about my day. I just ate it every day.
Well, you don't. I mean, for me, like, I didn't want to put those same images
in their heads. For sure.
That's the number one thing.
You're trapped there. At home, you are.
Yeah.
We've talked about this at great length in our podcast, because we've had people on who definitely were proponents of getting help, and just like Kenny said, their advice was, you got to start a conversation. For me, I don't think that conversation should be done at home. But, I mean, eventually you can, but not to the degree where you need to talk to you need to talk to, in my opinion, you need to talk to somebody who knows what it is that you were looking at.
Yeah.
Right. And
what I'll say is that I'll disagree a little bit in that you have to go home and talk about it, because they have to understand why you act the way you act. Because, I mean, I know myself. I act different. I know it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I'm like, it got to a point I'm like, don't say shit to me. Like, just give me 3 hours. I need 3 hours. If I don't get this 3 hours, I am Lucifer. Like, I'm letting you know now. I'm about to say something crazy.
And the
I'm
fact
not going to
that
be
you
nice.
quantified and put a number on it, that's an amazing thing.
I just need a block of time. You know what I'm saying? That's it. I would just say, I just need a block of time.
Yeah.
No kids, no you.
No, nothing.
I
just need to veg out. I need to sleep.
That's
look
it.
at a wall.
That's it.
Anything.
Right? Journal.
Yeah.
Anything. You know, I journal. So like,
But if life comes in the way of that, then
That's
you
the hard
you
part.
don't get to decompress.
yeah, and that happens I'll say about 75% of the time. Life is in the way, but that's the only reason I would say, you know, I'd had to talk to, you know, my mate, is because at the end of the day, it was like I'm giving her all this attitude, or I'm very dry, and you know.
And that's not fair to
And that's
them.
not fair. You know what I'm saying? She don't understand it. You know what I'm saying? So I don't have to give her every piece. I don't have to say, you know,
Well,
there was
that's more
brains
what
everywhere.
I'm advocating too, is let her know that you're dealing with something, that you got something going on.
For sure.
And you know, I don't want to drag that here, but I'm going through something. Just work with me here.
And it's just you have to. When I spoke to a therapist, I speak to a therapist now the same way, because you got to get rid of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, well, what do you do with all the stuff people give you? Everybody got to scrape something off on somebody else.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it sounds shitty, but that's what we need to do as humans to help each other out. Like, at the end of the day, that's what I feel like all people in life need to do, is help each other out in a certain way.
Yeah.
Like, people we don't even know. I was driving up here and I'm looking at all these cars. I said, these are all people in all these cars that I don't know from anybody. And they could be the most awesome person in the world, or they could be
piece
the
of shit.
worst person
Yeah,
in
for
the
sure.
world. But it's just so many different people that you had the opportunity to meet and run across and get the opportunity to just share and connect and bond with.
Well,
Yeah.
you know why, like, us talking about this now is so important? Because we roughly all have the same amount of time, right? 10, 11 years we got?
So we'll be at 12 in
12?
August.
We'll be at 12 in
Yeah,
12 in
I'll be 11 in November. So
Yep.
when we came on, to not be able to
Oh,
deal
that's
with
just
what we
here.
were dealing with at the firehouse, you were considered what? You were considered
Soft.
weak, soft,
So,
right?
oh yeah, if somebody says something to you,
And yeah, I mean, you couldn't, back when we came on, you couldn't talk, especially if you were new, you couldn't say that run
mess me up.
really messed me up. I'm not cool. You couldn't say that, right?
Yeah.
So we've been trying to break down that stigma that if you're hurt mentally, and Severen's heard me say this before, if you fell off a ladder and you broke your arm, nobody would tell you to walk it off, right? But in all regards, if you're hurt mentally, you're still hurt, and you wouldn't walk off a broken arm. You would go see a guy who knows how to fix your arm, right?
sure.
So you would go see a doctor, ortho guy. The same thing if you're hurt mentally, you got to go see the guy who can repair you. And I think the more that we let people know that good guys like you, good men out there, good firemen out there are reaching out because they thought they needed the help. Now somebody else is like, I'm kind of going through the same thing. I need the help too.
Yeah, the truth of the matter is that, you know, a lot of these tough guys on the fire department really not that tough. You know what I'm saying? So, like, when you sit there and you think about it, like, I observe a lot at the fire department. So, for me, when I'm sitting there and I'm watching them, and even this is just me giving guys that's listening, you know, the open door to talk to people and not think that these are the toughest dudes in the world. When you sit here and you watch them, you'll realize they really just not that tough. They beating their chest, not
the
really ready to
loudest
get down.
voice is usually
The weakest, the softest all the time. You know
Yes.
what I mean? This whole, like, one thing I hate on the fire service is this alpha dog thing. You know what I'm saying? And really, you know, they alphas in this little pocket. You know what I mean? And it's really convenient when, you know, this ain't the day and age where they used to take guys in the parking lot and duke it out.
right.
We can no longer do
We
that.
can't do that no
You know what I'm saying? You thump
You can say it
You can say it.
because that's what they do.
You can
But
rah too. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And it might not even come out. You know, the
Exactly.
guys might hold each other back, whatever. If there's ever a dude running up on me on some rah, I guarantee I'm not moving.
Yeah.
I guarantee he's not really gonna swing. You know what I'm saying? I'll be like, let him go.
Yes,
Let him go.
Please.
Let him go. I'm gonna give you one shot.
That's because you like the NBA. You used to them dudes. They used to be on the same shit. You remember Larry Johnson and Alonzo Mourning? Fighting.
Yeah, for sure.
And Larry Johnson, a boxer.
Yeah.
Alonzo Mourning, huge. And they ain't hit each other not once.
Not one time, but Zoe threw a nice straight right, though. That was bananas.
But he wasn't a boxer.
He didn't connect, but if it would have, he'd have knocked his head off.
But like
I don't think Bill Laimbeer ever hit anybody either for as many swings as he's ever taken.
No. What's his name? Zeke. Zeke thumped on what was the other one from the Bad Boys?
Little guy.
Zeke. No, he hit the big one. He hit not Bill Laimbeer, the other one.
Kevin McHale?
Not Kevin McHale. He was on the Bad Boys with the Pistons. Isaiah Thomas stole on him 4 times and he ain't never swing back.
On another Piston?
Yeah.
Before they got to the Pistons?
No, they was Bad Boys.
They was fighting each other?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. I'm telling you.
Because I thought they was
the
just fighting
Dennis
the
Rodman
world.
era, right?
Yeah.
I thought they was fighting everybody else.
Hit him in the face.
You know what? Somebody gonna send us the feedback. But that's because he's from Chicago. You know, that's how he get. He's from the West Side too. Yeah, he's from West Side.
But
too.
not to the point though. These dudes is on the fire service. It's really not that tough. You know, I don't get into the whole alpha dog talk because I always say like, for most of these dudes, and I mean 99.9% of you, if I dropped you on Chicago and home and in your regular clothes, took your car away, your wallet, your money, everything, and I said, make it home, you are fucked. You know what I'm saying? And like, to me, like, if you want to talk about, oh, he's such an alpha dog in life, you wouldn't fear that. You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't fear that moment. You know, so like, these dudes is just thugs on the fire department.
You know why I wouldn't fear that moment, Kenny?
What's that?
Because I probably transported every single
All
person
of
I'd
them.
see
They
walking
like,
down
hey,
the
They
man,
probably recognize
like,
you.
Did you take my grandmother to the hospital?
They probably
that
recognize
that
you.
was me. Yeah.
I'm known in that area.
Yeah, it's like those are, and you know this, like on the West Side. Number one, if you know, South Side people, it's so funny to me. Like the West Side is called us the most dangerous. We all know the West Side is the most dangerous part of the city.
That's so real quick, and I'm sorry, and I'm not trying to cut you off.
Yeah.
I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I got to Chicago, Illinois, and I got sent straight to the West Side.
Yes, sir.
I found out very quickly that the West Side, like they talk about, oh, Chicago terrible, Chicago bad, the South Side of Chicago doing this. The West Side so bad, they don't even come over there.
They don't even come over here.
They don't even report what happens on the West Side.
They don't.
The West Side
It's ridiculous.
is
It's ridiculous.
one of the craziest places I've ever been a part of being at ever. And we don't brag. We don't say, hey, we don't have the tough guy Olympics.
No.
But West Side is real.
It's real.
So I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish.
But nah, just seek help. Talk to these dudes. They going through the same things you going through. Don't think that they so tough and that it's easy for them to deal with. Their wives will tell you. They go home, they cry, they sulk to them, they talk to them. Their brothers, anybody will tell you these dudes they opening up to somebody. They just not out here being the toughest dudes in the world. They really not.
Please remember that. And really, in real life, that's why I started this podcast. That's why I wrote my book. That's why I got my little punk blog. If you follow me on Facebook and Instagram, you see I try and put inspirational stuff. That's why I do all of that stuff, because I want to have an open ear for anyone to talk to say, hey, I'm messed up out here. And even if you feel like it's nobody, it's no port in the storm, Severen Henderson will listen to you. And if I can't help you, I will at least point you in the right direction to go to.
Yeah. If I could say one thing too, just in the whole, this general conversation of finding something outside to, be passionate about and kind of decompress from the fire department. Even if you are like Severen and you love the fire service, Severen loves the fire service.
I do.
He loves this shit. Like I don't know what else he loves more. Maybe bourbon. You know what I'm saying? but
we ain't got none here. So.
But he loves the fire service, and I always say I love guys that love the fire department. I also love guys that don't fake the funk like me, that have other endeavors, because whatever you just need to find something that you love. If you work on a job, I'm gonna tell you, be good at the job though. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's what I'm saying about you. You good.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm gonna do my job. I'm gonna be great at my job. I'm gonna handle the drills. I'm gonna do all of that. But I also have my outside things, and if you have outside things, that's beautiful as well. You know, but you need something to be passionate about. Like it's been candidates that I've talked to that the fire service isn't what they want to do or wanted to do, and then they also have nothing going on outside at all. It's like, dude, you need something.
That's a problem waiting to happen.
Yes,
in my opinion,
for sure. That's a problem. You need something, you know, to connect to, because even in my darkest days on the fire department, that gym was still my spot. You know what I'm saying? Investing was still my thing. Like I still had things to keep my mind. My kids was still my thing. I still loved them to death. And like Vince said, I still wanted to be like the dopest dad in the world. You know what I'm saying? Like my son's hugging and kissing me is the illest thing in the world to me. So like, you know, you just need something to connect to. You can't just be coming to work, going home, coming to work, like, you know, that's crazy.
That's a recipe for disaster.
Yes, for sure.
So like, you know, Severen wanted to have this podcast about like outside endeavors, and what for us and what we do, I think Severen nailed it right on the head, that it is so important for us to have that outside endeavors.
Yes.
So that we're not going to work and taking it home with us and constantly sleeping with that. Yeah, Severen, I gotta agree with you 100% on that.
Yeah,
like,
thank you.
Those outside endeavors.
Yeah, and even if it's still fire department connected as Severen is, it's still not directly in it. You know what I'm saying? So like he's teaching, he's giving inspiration, like he's hitting other passions that he probably don't even realize he has, but he's being great at. So like have some other things you're doing. Don't go home and come to work, go home, come to work. That's gonna be ridiculous.
Not good for anybody.
Yeah.
And it's the airplane analogy for me that mask drop down. You can't, and our job is to help the world.
For sure.
But we can't help the world if we can't help ourselves.
I thought I was the only one that said, like, I tell people all the time, I'm going to save the world. Whenever I'm going to work, that's what I tell. I'm going to save the world.
I'm going to save the world. Hey, I put it in the book. I had a girl I was dating. She said, "You think you want to be a superhero? You want to forever, whole life?" Well, I'm the closest thing to it. Yep. Yes. And I appreciate the opportunity I get to serve the citizens of Chicago. And at the end of the day, I want to serve the world, help the world.
We'll save the world one person at a time.
One person at a time.
Just read a book on that. Just this morning, I just read a book on that. If we can change anybody's mind or get anybody to wake up or get anybody to seek some help, then you've saved the world. Just that one person at a time.
One person is all it takes.
That's all it takes.
Okay, so that was heavy.
It was good.
Mental stuff.
Yeah.
It was good.
Real quick before we get out of here, because I don't want to go too long.
Yeah.
Let's hit some light stuff.
Word.
Basketball. You the basketball dude. NBA season. Have you been watching this year?
You already know.
In, out. My son tells me because you got a PS5 and he comes over and hangs out with your son sometimes. He said, "Yeah, Ken told me he was better than Steph Curry." Did you tell my son that?
No, you know what I told him? He so when we was doing our shooting drills, it wasn't at the house. In the gym, we was doing the shooting drills. So one day he's shooting and he yells out, "Steph," right?
Like Kobe.
I'm talking about,
That's
yeah,
the
exactly.
It's the new age.
Exactly. You know, I used to say AI, I used to say Nick, but I'm like, and first of all, he airball, you know. So that was the thing. And so then I was like, "Man, throw me that ball right there." And then I stroked it. He'll tell you. And I was like, "Now that's Steph."
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And that was the end of that.
Because he came on, he said, "Ken told me he's better than Steph Curry."
And
I said, I don't think Ken said anything like that.
Steph is in my top 10 all time right now.
Yes.
That dude's ridiculous.
Yes, he's doing things
top 10
this
all
year.
time.
And one day, once I get all my podcast chops up and everything, I got this pop culture podcast, got the drinking podcast, got the fire podcast. I got to do a sports podcast.
See, all that passions, man. Passions.
I just like talking.
Yeah. Word.
I just like talking and telling stories.
I'm in on the all the NBA, the drinking one. pop culture. I'm in on that.
Hey, so we doing Snowfall right now. So
I've only watched one episode, man. I don't watch TV. I really don't have the time. Bro.
Honestly, I don't watch TV either, except for certain shows.
Okay, so I'll give you that. I do watch that because right now I'm waiting on Dave.
Oh, I like Dave. Dave was pretty cool. Oh, maybe we can do that on the Pop Culture Podcast.
Dave is hilarious.
You know what else I'm waiting to come back? Atlanta.
Atlanta.
I like
Atlanta. They just started
too.
filming, what's that, a month ago?
Yep.
Yeah.
And you know what I don't watch, but I saw today is Power Book 2.
Yeah.
I saw White Boy Tommy outside today in that nice Mustang.
Yeah.
And we was like running highline. Like, hey, little dude. So,
yeah.
I didn't even know how did Power move to Chicago. I don't know.
I
don't know either. We got to keep it light.
Yeah.
Vince,
sir,
do you have anything that you want to leave us? Any lasting words of wisdom that you'd like to leave us and the listeners with?
Not really. I just want to. I didn't know. And here's one of the problems with being at the firehouse, and especially like when Kenny's at the firehouse. Like when Kenny says he's a ghost. He's gone.
Oh, I know. I used to get detailed there. I was used to be the medical truck
0801. Kenny's gone.
Like I said, this is one of my best buddies.
Yeah.
I love this dude. And I would see him a little bit. He would say, hey, you need a bed. He would show me where that was at. And that was it.
I didn't know like all of what Kenny does outside of the firehouse. So I just think that what you're doing is awesome. And there needs to be more people giving that kind of guidance around. So, if you're listening and, be like Ken, man, make a difference. Yeah, make a difference.
Yeah, you know what I was going to say, and thank you for that, Vince. I was going to say the same thing about you before we left. I was going to cut Severen off if he cuts us off and just say, the work that you putting in as an entrepreneur, as well as helping the next generation of fire service individuals is bomb. Like, like I said, I'm kind of just picking at the words and how you're focused on what they actually have to do. Not just putting them in a workout. We can go do Pilates. We could go do CrossFit. We can do all these other workouts, but you got to be ready for your job. You know what I mean? And those workouts have to be specific. So what you do is awesome as well. And to those guys that's out there, I think I've talked to Severen about this. I actually dropped out of being a lieutenant, and a lot of guys, chiefs, and my father, a lot of people were upset because of the coach in me, the natural leader and a natural teacher in me. People felt like I'd be a great officer. But to those guys that's out there, like, if you don't want to do that, you don't have to do that. But you do have a duty to teach the guys behind you. You do have a duty to mentor and not leave the job like shit. It should be left better than it was when it was given to you. So continue to mentor everybody. Continue to teach everybody. Continue to love everybody.
I mean, I can't. You took all the words right out of my mouth, and this is my show. Vince, thank you. Ken, thank you. I don't think I can say anything
You're
better.
Welcome, brother. Love you, brother.
Please reach out to us at Department 3C on all socials. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. And just a regular generic email address, department3c@gmail.com. Please offer us any feedback that you had about the show, about the episode. And it's been a while since I came back, so if you're listening to this point, I really appreciate you. Thank you for listening. And with that being said, I'll see you on the next episode.